Welcome to this audio spells production of Journeys of the Astropaths, Michael. I am Robin, and we are ecstatic to bring you this show. So please help us grow by subscribing, 5-star reviews, liking, sharing, and commenting on any of our podcast platforms. For more information and our full credits, please visit www.astropathsaudio.com or search Journeys of the Astropaths on Facebook. And now, let us cast you a spell.
It's a chilly spring evening. I had a busy day and just finished my workout. No dinner tonight, just a fruit smoothie loaded with vitamin supplements. My Qigong practice fuels my astropath powers, so I do these exercises a couple times a day, but I also enjoy lifting weights, biking, rock climbing, and was a baseball guy all through high school. So I guess I fall into the jock category in school, although barely, as socially I hung out with more band nerds and just plain nerds than I did athletes. Anyway, time to continue my tale. After my sister passed away, I dealt with all the funeral arrangements, from buying the tombstone, the coffin, the funeral itself and burial, and notifying friends, and so many other little details, like shutting down social media accounts and bank accounts, and it's all necessary, and yet I've never thought about any of these things before. I had to do all of it. Since my Uncle Tommy was worthlessly devastated with grief, no doubt reliving the loss of my parents and feeling the guilt of his incompetence in helping either them or Cassandra. After she was laid to rest, I just collapsed in my apartment and held up for several days. I watched videos of Cassandra and I, mixed in a few of her favorite movies, and I drank a lot of vodka, mixing in the occasional whiskey. Delivery food and booze arrived. Sometimes I wouldn't even remember ordering it, and I spent every dollar I had and was paying with spare change near the end. Night would roll around, and I'd try to sleep by playing Brahms, or Mendelssohn, or Corelli, but considering I was always wasted by nighttime, I'd play it way too loud. The neighbors would pound on my walls, and I'd turn it down, but on the third night, the police arrived at my door. I guess my neighbors had had enough. We've had a disturbance call from several of your neighbors. Are you the legal resident? Michael Sims, Officer Garcia said, adjusting her gun belt and peering over my shoulder into my disastrously cluttered living room. I guess she was looking for drugs. Behind her, at an angle where I couldn't quite make him out, was another officer who all I could see was his hand firmly gripping his pistol's grip. I'm Michael, yes. She nodded approvingly. You need to immediately turn that, she paused, I guess, not being a classical music fan, music off so we can have this conversation. Now, I was more than a little drunk. My eyes were struggling to focus, and my knees were wobbly. Yes, okay, I said. Can I come inside? She asked somberly. Yeah, I guess. I walked to the stereo and turned it off after missing the power button a couple of times. When the speedy string cacophony of Corelli faded to silence, I felt a heaviness come over me and that buzz in my ear of sound being absent. I think I breathed deeper than I had in weeks, and I could feel my skin, tight from exhaustion, lack of bathing, and my face itching with a 4-day growth of whiskers. "You okay?" Officer Garcia asked, observing my moment of self-assessment. I was really not. The old thing my dad used to say to my mom when she'd had too much to drink and was pacing around ranting about something, waving her arms as if she was trying to lift off, came to mind. "Sit down before you fall down," he'd say. "Mind if I sit?" I asked. "Sure. You don't look well." I took a seat at the cluttered table, trying to bring things into focus before my head began to spin. The other officer, an older man with gray hair jutting from beneath his cap, was now standing just inside the door, looking around my room, while Officer Garcia stepped to the other side of my table to face me and have our conversation. "Maybe you should have some water," Officer Garcia said. "I had a glass of something around here somewhere," I mumbled. "No, you need water, not more of whatever you've been drinking. Look, sir, we have a lot more pressing matters than dealing with your poor choice in music and rudeness to your neighbors. So if you are not in physical distress, I'm going to make this short and sweet. You will not turn your stereo on again tonight, and you will, going forward, not turn it above medium volume after dark." I heard her, knew she was doing her job and doing it well, but I didn't like her tone. It can easily be said that I have trouble with authority. I found my way out of many a high school classroom by hitting my limit with how condescending my teacher was being. Their quippy attempt to bring me in line was okay, but if they belittled me, I'd top that with something personal. Then they'd kick me out of class. I quit 3 jobs for the same reason. So yeah, a pattern, I guess. Well, cops, bosses, and teachers are all kind of the same in that they have that "we know best" tone that gets under my skin, and hers was gradually forming edges that were beginning to cut. She kept talking about me annoying my neighbors, my selfish and reckless behavior, while I thought back to a job I had a few months after high school. I was still kicking around a few ideas for my career. Or, okay, honestly, the paperwork for my insurance money was held up because I graduated from high school at 17 and couldn't collect my insurance money from my parents' death benefits until I was 18. So I joined my friend Alex in sales at a local furniture store. He had it made at this place, being the owner's nephew and having a natural gift for gab with customers. Well, after several joints in the alley behind the shop anyway. He could chat and ramble on about couches and chairs and leather, beds. Basically, after a while, people just seemed to say, okay, sounds good, we'll take it. Now, his Uncle James, Dorn, was a very odd fellow who was stressed out of his mind with 2 ex-wives demanding money and 3 kids demanding money and the IRS demanding money, and well, you get it. His business was everything to him, as its success was the one thing that made his world spin. When he had slow days, his tension blossomed into a stiffness of his walk, posture, jaw, everything. The day I had enough of Uncle James, I wasn't smoking pot with Alex, but maybe I should have been. Earlier that day, we had 19 sofas returned from a housing development that changed their mind, and I blew a slam dunk sale right in front of him. So first of all, in case you've never tried to support yourself by selling furniture, slam dunk sales are any time a pretty girl is on the arm of an older guy doing a bit of shopping. Or really, anytime a young bride or a hot girlfriend or handsome boyfriend on the arm of an older guy or an older woman, well, it's just like picking up loose change out of the couch. So my couple was especially an easy mark. A mid-40s guy dressed in blue jeans, a tight t-shirt with Ray-Bans and a Submariner Rolex, and his fresh out of university Midwest farm girl of a girlfriend, still wearing Converse tennis shoes with pink ankle socks, despite sporting a cardigan sweater and a pearl necklace that perhaps a housewife might wear. I was excited since my buddy was still smoking. I had first crack at them. "Good morning, sir. What can I show you today?" I greeted them, making eye contact only with the guy so as not to create any weirdness with the girl. One of the first lessons you learn, make the buyer feel like they deserve the trophy on their arm, and at all cost, do not flirt with the lovely trophy. I started it all right, but... Well, this girl, she was not going to be talked over or around. "We're looking for a new sofa," she said, and then she stepped in front of him and looked me right in the eyes with the most intense blue-eyed stare. "It's for my new condo." She paused and smiled. "I have a view of the Rockies to die for, and need a sofa I can really stretch out on." I swallowed far too slow, and I looked her up and down. Her lean body, narrow hips, and stilted long legs were captivating enough, but her sweater was straining to hold back her breasts, and I found it impossible to look away. When I did finally find her blue eyes again, she was grinning with the smirk of a senior who let her towel fall in front of a freshman boy just to get a rise out of him. She slowly ran her fingers through her thick blonde hair, her French manicured nails causing small ripples in her hair before she shook her mane slightly and brought her tongue forward to part her lips. "And are you also the one who will deliver it?" she said. I tried to turn things back to professional, despite my voice sounding as thick as a boy answering questions about his fake ID while trying to get into a club. "Maybe we better find the one you want before we talk about delivery. I mean, do we deliver? We being the shop? I don't myself, but delivery is a part of the deal." She knew she'd gotten under my skin, and maybe also her man's. Not maybe. He shot me a glance that said, "Thin ice, kid, thin ice." I walked them to the sofas, love seats and couches, with fold-out beds, and motioned casually that they should look around. I was planning for her to walk in one direction, and I'd then stay next to the guy. But she was having none of that. She grabbed my arm with that Midwestern firmness and said, "Okay then, escort me to your finest sofa." She smelled amazing. Like a floral arrangement bottled with a sharp bead of magic, and I was losing myself in the warmth of her arm and the tantalizing feel of her nails, which she was dragging purposefully on my forearm. And worse, being only 17 and a recent member of the sexually active, I was conspicuously aroused and trying to turn my hips away from her so she didn't see this fact. Finally, she spotted a plush leather beauty, and her excitement for it made her drop my arm and rush to plop into its center and kick up her feet, reclining back playfully. "Classy and comfy," she squealed. Now her boyfriend had the separation he needed. He stepped between me and her, looking me straight in the eyes. "Go get your boss, boy. I'd rather work with an adult." And he paused, looking at my erection straining against my slacks. "You need a little self-control." I was only 17, full of a bit of bravado, having just graduated high school, and of course, a bit embarrassed to have a public boner. I let slip with, "Maybe you should try controlling your girlfriend." Man, he wanted to hit me. I've been punched plenty of times, and I was expecting it. But perhaps he knew that meant I won. So he simply changed his strategy. He pulled his phone out. "Babe, I got a text from work. I need to get over there. But we'll stop by that mountain bike store next door and pick up that bike we looked at yesterday. And there's a furniture place next to that has some serious signature pieces instead of this stock warehouse stuff." She looked at him as if she'd just won a negotiation. And I'd guess that was the case. A bike and a nicer couch. Good for her, I thought. She barely gave me a second glance as they departed the store, arm in arm. Her high-pitched giggling cutting above his smug, deep chuckles of victory trailed off quickly. But her scent lingered about the couch she'd jumped into, and I was sitting on it now, inhaling deeply. "How on earth did you blow that sail? How on earth?" James scolded, approaching from behind me. "I mean, the guy was such a prick, James," I complained. "Of course he was a prick, a big giant prick, and he wanted to wave that and his thick wallet around to impress his little girlfriend by buying a piece of furniture he'd be banging her on later. You've been here long enough to know that's the deal. You play along, make him feel like the big man, and her like the trophy he deserves, and make the damn sale. An idiot can do it. So if an idiot can do it, that makes you dumber than an idiot." "Yeah," I said, "I am dumber than an idiot for working for a loser like you." Then I came up with a line that has long been my go-to in dealing with the masses of stressed-out laborers and average working folks. "Don't take your bad life choices out on me," I said. He stood glaring at me with his eyes twitching and bulging all at once. "If you weren't Alex's buddy, I'd have fired you already," he barked. "If you weren't his uncle, I'd have told you to But before I could get the entire F word out, he threw up his hand and said, "You're fired." Alex walked up just in time to hear the last few words, and he was so stoned his eyes were demon's blood red. He was trying to get his grip, but he could only cough out a, "What the hell?" I shot Alex a glance as I started for the front door. "Dude, catch you tonight. Can you get my last check from me from your shithead uncle?" He nodded a yes, while still trying to sort out what was happening through his cannabis-fogged mind. I got so lost in that memory, I could feel my face stretching with a Cheshire smile, and realized I hadn't heard much of anything Officer Garcia had been saying. "What are you smiling about?" she said. But instead of this phrase coming across as admonishing, it actually was more curious. "I was just lost in a memory," I admitted. "You seem nice. I've just lost someone very dear to me, and maybe I've been acting out of line. Maybe I'm a bit angry at the world, and I know I'm too drunk." Her eyes were closed, like she was thinking about things when I looked at her face. She was pretty, caramel-skinned, maybe a year or two older than me, but not 30 yet. And even in her uniform, that ugly, one-size-fits-none blue, it was evident that she had an athletic body. The other officer had been standing close, bored, and ready to leave. Finally, he made his presence known by clearing his throat. She turned her attention to him, rising to leave. Officer, could I ask you something?" She looked back at me. "There's a coffee shop just off Broadway. Yippee hippie? I was curious if you'd let me buy you a cup. When you get off work, that is. I'm gonna switch my drink, as you suggested, to coffee, and had some questions about police work." The other officer's throat clearing turned into a smoker's chuckle. She sneered at him. She took a couple steps toward the door without a word, and then, when her partner had cleared the doorway, she threw me a glance over her shoulder. "If I get there, and you look like this, some kind of Unabomber hermit, I'll be taking that coffee to go. But I'll roll by there about 7. Think you can actually get up by then? I got a reason to, I said. She stepped out, and I closed the door behind her. So why are you telling teenage boner stories, Michael? Why does this matter? It matters because you asked me to do these. To explain and share, well, if, after you learned of my powers, I'd ever use them to hurt anyone. So before I get into all of that, understand I was once a kid, a teenager with a boner, a guy looking for a clue in a man with a sister who died in an accident he lived through. It's all woven in and part of who I was a becoming. Another one of my sister's words, was a becoming, was her expression for in progress, I guess. And for Officer Garcia, oh, she's one of the biggest parts of all of this. But I didn't know it then.